everybody, and welcome to today's Q&A. We're going to be talking about college level recruitment today, and while the question that came in was specific to someone's first college teaching position and one that is potentially an adjunct teaching position, the insights I'll actually be offering are applicable for recruitment for all levels of college teaching and all stages of college teaching. So the question that came in was, for people who are in their first college teaching position that happens to be adjunct, how do you effectively recruit, especially as an adjunct at a school surrounded by larger schools? Great question. Okay, there are definitely some challenges here, especially the adjunct component of the question, the small schools surrounded by larger schools component of the question, and then just in general, the topic of recruitment, which is definitely a challenge. I'm going to break my response down into 4 parts. The first part is information that you need to gather and inventory. The second section is resources, team resources, financial resources, and even personal resources like time. The third section is strategies, networking strategies, participation and skill building strategies, and marketing and outreach strategies. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about next steps. How does all this come together and break down? And what are the things that you need to do to make recruitment as successful as possible? Okay, so let's start with information. One important area of information to gather is information about the school, the mission of the school, the mission of the department. What are the strong departments or colleges or schools on campus? And what is campus life like? So basically, you're just going to learn about the school and especially be very clear on what the mission of your department and the whole university or college is. Secondly, you'll want information on the demographics. What demographics are drawn to the school? Is this a school that really draws very local people? Does it draw regionally? Does it have a vision for drawing nationally? Does it have a vision for drawing internationally? There are some schools that basically have a regional draw, but also have a very strong international component in some departments, which is kind of interesting. So they don't have as much of a national draw, but they might have a strong regional draw and then a very strong international draw. Next, what kind of information can you gather about scholarships? Now, this is going to be very important, especially for scholarships related to your area of study. What can you offer incoming students? What is there for students who maybe excel at other topics but would be taking lessons with you? So just get all the information you can get on scholarships. Then you'll want to ask your department chair or your director what the funding opportunities for your recruitment efforts are. These can include travel grants for going out to schools or even financial support for your marketing efforts. Next, does the school have a recruitment director? Does the college have one? Does a university have one? And if so, what are their responsibilities and how can you collaborate to meet your recruitment goals? Finally, in terms of information that you'll want to gather, does the school already have recruitment initiatives or recruitment days in place? Are there campus visit days? In the area of music, are there band clinic days? So gather the information on what recruitment initiatives already exist. Moving along now to the inventory portion of the information you want to collect. So first, inventory what the needs of the large ensembles are. So this can include orchestra, band, wind symphony, even the marching band in some cases. Whatever large ensembles are on campus, those directors have needs. They have numbers for each instrument that have to be met. And what are those numbers for your instrument? Then what are the needs or expectations for the instruments in your area? So if you're part of a woodwind area, for example, is the standard size of the studio 10 per instrument? Is it 15? What are the needs? What are the expectations? Next, and in some ways, maybe most importantly, since this is so closely related to your job, would be to inventory what is going on in your area of teaching, which, if you're a flutist, happens to be the flute studio. So in terms of inventorying the flute program, is there a flute choir? Are there flute studio classes in place? What is the level of expectation and the bar that the students are used to? What are the community needs of the students? Do they feel like they actually have a sense of learning community within the studio? And what is the health of the flute studio? By this I mean, are they getting along? Are they supportive? Is there a healthy understanding and a clear expectation for professional ways of communicating? Do they like each other? Are they excited that you're coming in as their new professor? Are they devastated that the last professor left? What are their needs? What are their desires? What is the health of the learning community that you are coming into? Related to this and the learning community that you're coming in to lead, you'll want to get a good understanding of how many flute students there are in each year of study, how many are majors, and how many are flute minors. And in terms of majors, you have X number of music ed, X number of performance, X number of music industry, X number of music therapy. What does the topography of the studio you are walking into look like? You'll also want to inventory what marketing the school you're teaching at has in place to support you and to support the mission and efforts of the school. Does your school or the department have a marketing director? Is there a certain amount of money that's allocated to each area, like the woodwind area or the percussion area or the string area? How do you go about obtaining some of this funding to support your recruitment needs? As a new faculty member, do you have any additional access to extra support in the area of marketing? Does this person or office create posters? Will they create advertisements for you or e-blasts? Will they be involved in any way in supporting social media efforts? So we've just talked about the information you'll want to gather, information you'll want to inventory. Let's talk next about resources that you're going to need to be successful in your recruitment efforts. So the first one is that you're going to want to create a team, and I've broken these down into 3 parts: campus teams, professional teams, and then a student resource team. Let's start with your campus team. So this includes any kind of resource that you would have that comes from colleagues or offices on campus. One of the most important resources that you're going to have on campus for successful recruitment will be your relationship and your collaboration with the director of your department, as well as with the large ensemble directors. So for example, with the large ensemble directors, you're going to want to ask questions about what activities they're already involved in. What are their goals? How can you help them create the best program possible? Is there an honor band clinic? Are there junior audition days that they are involved in? What are the outreach events that the large ensembles do? Do the directors have access to email lists of other band directors, say at other schools or even in high school? Do they have access to email lists from all state competitions and all state events? What are their high school and regional connections, and how can you tap in? Could you perform with the large ensembles on one of their outreach events? What has worked for them historically and what has not worked historically? This would be a great question to ask your director as well as your colleagues in the area you're teaching in and in other areas. So if you're in the woodwind area, I would say go ahead and ask the colleagues in the string area and the piano area, what are they doing? What have they done? What has worked? What hasn't worked? Then, as I mentioned before, you have this possibility of a resource in the form of a director of marketing or even a director of recruitment. And so you'll want to definitely connect with them, find out what they do, find out how they can help you, find out how you can help them, and see what kind of a package for a great initiative you can put together. Then I suggest that you really make sure that you have created a group of mentors who are on campus. So this can include people in your area, people in your college, people across other colleges or other schools, faculty members, staff, administrators, outreach groups and service organizations that you're a part of that are related to the campus. Find the people who have succeeded and the people who are willing to take you under their wing and listen and offer advice, and make sure you're all set with the very important resource of having mentors on campus. And along those lines, another fantastic idea is to reach out to the person who is in your position before you. They have access potentially to some of the most important information you're going to need up front, including information about the health of the studio, the current students you're going to be working with, the level of expectation and the bar that they have set for those students, who succeeded, who struggled with what ideas worked for recruitment, what ideas did not. Go ahead and reach out to that person and say, hey, I really would like to succeed in this new position. What can you offer me in terms of information and advice from your experience? Your next resource team is your professional team. So these are people who are in the profession but don't work on campus. I recommend reaching out to others in the profession who are at the very same stage that you're in. I recommend most definitely reaching out also to professionals who are not in your stage of their teaching careers. So people who've had 10 years experience, 5 years experience, 20 years experience, and people who are even retired. Ask questions like the person who sent this question in did. And remember, you're not limiting yourself to professional resources whose area of expertise is your instrument. These can be experienced professionals who teach other instruments, who teach in other countries, who teach under other systems, and who are not even music educators. And another great professional team resource are your colleagues. So in this regard, and in terms of the question of recruitment, you can do so many things with your colleagues that are actually recruitment activities. These include putting concerts together and performing at local or regional or even national events. They include visiting schools together and giving master classes, or even visiting schools together to talk about the program. You can also team up with your colleagues in terms of marketing. So you could create, for example, some social media platforms that are related to your area, for example, the Woodwind area, or you can combine your financial and your energy resources to create marketing that promotes what you're doing in the area for your program. Another great, in fact, fantastic resource to tap into for recruitment efforts includes students. So in regards to students, you have alumni, and some of them might not be your own alumni because you are potentially new to the program, but they are alumni of the program. Find out who they are. See if the alumni office has a list of former alumni. That list could potentially go back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Are those people actively performing? Are they running studios that you could visit and tap into and share information with about the program? And then in terms of current students, who among them are willing to be ambassadors? So if you have prospective students visiting campus, would any of the current students be willing to meet them for lunch? Are they willing to message them and email with them and answer questions for them? So we've talked about creating a campus resource team. We've talked about creating a professional resource team. We've talked about tapping into alumni and students. And finally, just a few other thoughts in terms of resources. 2 other resources that you're going to have to give consideration to are financial resources and personal time resources. How much are you willing to invest from your personal finances to develop the program that you're hoping to develop? And in terms of time or skill, are you willing to put the time in to create posters? Are you willing to put the time in to create advertisements? Will you run promotions for those advertisements through the various flute channels online or through magazines or organizations? How much of your own financial and energy resources are you willing to invest? So we've talked about information that you'll want to gather and inventory. And we've talked about resources such as teams you'll want to build both on campus, off campus, and we've talked about finances and personal time investment. Now let's move to strategies. So I've divided strategies into 3 sections. The first one is networking, the second one is participation and skill building, and the third one is outreach, which includes marketing and activities. In terms of building professional networks to help with your recruitment, I recommend starting with ensemble directors. This includes the ensemble directors in your school and being able to tap into anything that they can offer you to support your efforts. And this includes tapping into the ensemble directors in regional high schools, even in high schools that are in other states. You'll want to find out who's running pre-college studios in your area, pre-college studios in the region. What are the top pre-college studios in the country? Who are those teachers? How can you get information about your program and your teaching to them so that they can pass that information along to their students? Related to that, you'll want to make sure that you're joining local, regional, national, and even international organizations and networks. So in the flute world, that includes the National Flute Association, the Flute Society of Washington, the Florida Flute Association, the Philadelphia Flute Society, the New York Flute Club, the Rochester Flute Association. There are so many fabulous flute associations out there that are both regional and national in scope. There's also the Music Teacher National Association and associations that are international. And what's great about a lot of these associations is that they also house an email list proc, and many of them offer the opportunity for a small price to send out information via their email list proc. Many of these associations also include lists of teachers in the profession and what age group they teach. Another recommendation for building your professional networks would be to actually reach out to other college professors in the area, in the region, in the state, and even nationally, and just see what they're doing that you could become a part of. Can you take part in a flute-related event that they may be hosting, including giving a warm-up class, conducting a flute choir, giving a master class, performing a piece on one of their concerts? Basically, the idea here is to, first of all, reach out, let them know who you are, that you're in the area, offer your services, become a part of what they're doing, and get your name out so that young flutists who are participating in those events can become more aware of you and your program. And then related to this, you want to make sure that you're inviting these artists to your school. That gives them the opportunity to work with your students, to see your program, to see your campus, and to just be generally aware of what's going on, in addition to strengthening your program with their presence as guest artists. Okay, so let's now move to the participation and skill building part of strategies. So first off, let me just say that if you have landed on this adjunct position and you're in your first college teaching position, this is an amazing opportunity for you to build your resume for whatever steps may lie ahead. So the recommendation is to participate in conferences, to give seminars, to be a part of organizations, to develop your own skill, to be involved in a lot of professional development and a lot of research that you kind of put out there so that you can develop awareness for your work. And this is not only important for recruitment, but it's important for your own skill building, for your resume, and hence for the next job that you might apply for. You want to really use this opportunity in your first college teaching position to develop your skills as a teacher, as a colleague, as a recruiter, as a researcher, to develop your understanding of what is out there in the field, to expand your involvement in the community, to expand your toolkit, to develop your resume, to put yourself in a position where you're not just learning and giving back and being part of the great things that are going on at your school and in your community, but also to be building your resume. A couple of extra ideas of things that you can do to participate in skill build that help recruitment as well as your own skill sets and your resume include judging competitions. You can make all-state videos that kind of go out there and help students learning those pieces prepare for all-state competitions. You could also see what resources the school has in terms of video recording and audio recording, and use your time there for recording projects that you could potentially use for content on social platforms or even to make a CD. Another great and very important strategy is to create a recruitment packet. So this can be a literal hard copy packet that's in the form of a folder where on one side you have information about the school, maybe you have their list of concerts for the year, or you have pamphlets from other departments like the art department and the dance department. You have scholarship information. You might also have a bio sheet in there that tells the prospective student about you and includes links to your website and your social platforms. You could include a CD that has examples of your playing, or again, in your bio packet, you could include links to Spotify or locations where your playing can be heard. And you can even include swag, so like pencils that have your school name on them, those little bands that people walk around with, those lanyards. anything that makes the recruitment packet enjoyable and informational for your prospective students. You're going to want to create an email that also has all the significant information about auditions, repertoire, dates, links to application pages, scholarship information, so that you can have that email ready to go and ready to send out when somebody inquires about your program. I talked a little earlier about collecting email lists. So again, you can ask your ensemble directors for any email lists they have. You can see if your school has an email list. Do they send out information about studios? Can you kind of get in on that? Do your regional flute societies have email lists that you can tap into and send information out on? And one other great idea, and this is not necessarily so much for the recruitment packet aspect, and that is to send off a hello packet where again, you might have some of your CD recordings, a letter outlining who you are, what you'd love to do with them, how you'd be happy to participate and be part of the community, and information about what you're offering and what you hope to see happening with your program. Another really important and totally obvious aspect of outreach includes personal branding and marketing. So if you haven't done any reading on this topic, go ahead and do it. There's so much great information out there that will help you organize your personal brand, help you highlight the things that are your strengths, help you understand ways to get content out there that helps your community, that shows your strengths, that shows the things you're interested in, and even can highlight your teaching and your program. So first off is your website. Make sure you have a website. There's so many great programs out there that will allow you to create one really easily. Make sure your website has up-to-date bio information, has up-to-date calendar information if that's where you want to keep it. Alternatively, you can keep that on your social platforms like Facebook. Make sure your website has a press packet with photos that can be downloaded and links to recordings. Another great thing to include on your website is information about your program, about your teaching philosophy, quotes from students, and upcoming events. Moving on to social platforms, you obviously have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. These are great platforms for musicians. I know some people are doing TikTok, but I think personally I just cannot handle another platform. So hopefully Instagram won't go extinct with future generations of incoming potential prospective students. But currently I would say that Instagram is a really great platform for generating awareness of what you do and connecting with other musicians in the field. It's a great platform for becoming inspired. There's so many great musicians on that platform. There's a great community through that platform, people who will comment on your posts and who will message you and send you great questions like the ones that we're looking at in this series. And Facebook is a fantastic platform. It's a great platform specifically for, I think, teachers, because sort of the age group of teachers and musicians who are active on that platform is higher, and therefore basically you're dealing with peers and colleagues and people who would be seeing your work and noticing what your page is doing and what you're up to. You want to make sure that your studio has a Facebook account, that your studio has an Instagram account, that you're using those platforms to really make the work of your students shine, that you're supporting their platforms through how you post on the studio platforms, and that you're really using your platform to participate in and provide great content for the music community to enjoy and benefit from. Finally, under strategies are activities that you can do that are specifically recruitment oriented. So we're talking about ways to bring people on campus, or if they're already on campus, as in, for example, audition days, how to navigate those opportunities so that you're really letting the visitors understand your program, having time to speak with each of them, and giving them an opportunity to ask important questions. Some great ideas for on-campus activities include hosting a flute day and pulling in regional and national artists and colleagues in the field. You can host a flute camp over the summer that's 3 days long or 2 days long or a week long. You can team up with your colleagues to host a woodwind day or a woodwind multi-day event. And then there's audition day. How will you navigate audition day? Do you have ambassadors among your students and in your studio who would be willing to meet with the incoming students who are there to audition? Are they willing to meet with them and go out for dinner the night before, or even show them around campus that day? Can you set up calendar dates with students who are interested in your program where they come to campus and they actually get to sit in on your studio class and meet your studio family and participate in shadowing students in ensembles and in class events? I have to say that one of my favorite and one of the most busiest times of year is the recruitment phase, the audition cycle, the audition days, the visits to campus, all of the emailing that goes along with answering questions, with connecting students to prospective students. It's a super busy time. It's an exciting time. You get to meet all of these other flutists who you've either maybe never met before or who you've met at master classes and seminars and performances that you've given in your travels. Be on top of your emailing, make a plan, have an email packet, get your teams together, know what you're doing, and make the event and the experience of auditioning at your school a really good one for these prospective students who are investing money and time in traveling to come audition for you. So again, just to recap, we've talked about information we want to gather, we've talked about resources, strategies, and now let's talk about next steps. So these are just a couple of random sort of tips that I think fall in line with the importance of this question. And one of those is you really want to be focused on building the best program that you can build. So yes, you're focused on recruitment. Yes, you're focused on trying to assist the school in their vision in terms of bringing students in. But you also really need to be focused on, what can I do to create an amazing program for my students? How can I grow in the process of creating that program? What can I learn from my mentors, from my colleagues on campus, from professionals off campus? What are other people doing to create great programs? What is a great program? What is my vision for a great program? What do my students think would make a great program? Then you also, again, want to keep the big picture in mind, both in terms of your personal growth, your professional growth, your resume. How can what I do at this location and how I develop my program, how can that assist me with future goals, with my 5-year goals, with my 10-year goals? If I want to be one day in a tenure track program, what skills can I develop? What attributes of my work can be exemplified in what I do in this program, and what becomes part of my resume? And along those lines, even if you're just in an adjunct position or a small school that doesn't have a tenure track opportunity, be aware of what goes into a tenure track position and be conscientious of all of those elements, even if they are not required aspects of this adjunct teaching position. So the aspects of tenure basically usually include 3 primary things, and that is research, service, and teaching. And in many tenure track positions, 60% of your work may include research, which includes performing, recording, publishing, and then the other 40% may be a combination of teaching and service to the profession, service to the university, the region, whatever aspects of service may be part of the contract. So as you consider that, even though your adjunct teaching position may be only to teach 9 flute players or 6 flute players, you still want to be developing all those aspects of your resume and your experience that are going to show that you would be successful one day in a tenure track position. And the very last tip I have is bloom where you're planted. So enjoy the position you're in, learn what you can, get the most out of it, make a lot of friends in your department, in the college, enjoy your students, enjoy all the experiences and the journeys that you're going to share, perform as much as possible, be involved in chamber music, do outreach, take part in campus life, go to sporting events, show up at festivals, be a part of all that's going on, and bloom where you're planted. All of these thoughts, all of these tips come from my own experience, which includes 30 years of teaching, 20 of which have been at the college level.